Hi, the episode is coming at you in just a minute. I just wanted to take a second to let you know that if you can, leave a 5-star review or follow us on your podcast platform of choice. That really helps the podcast and allows us to continue to provide a platform for independent musicians in Berlin. And it helps provide you, the listener, with more insights and experiences and advice from independent musicians that are living off music and making their way in the independent music scene here in Berlin and in Europe. Thank you very much, and I'll leave you to listen to the episode. Thank you. So yeah, I'll do one, then you do one.
Ah,
Perfect. Welcome back to Unsigned Berlin. I'm sat here today with Jakohitsdifferent.
that's true.
Jakohitsdifferent. So we're going to start off with a little snippet of Rain Dance from your recent album.
Rays hit the shade and it was cleared. Ironic when the sun burns and blazes. We hope that the pain disappears. I'm the same shit. I ain't danced to rain dance in years. You better not.
And that was Rain Dance. That's one of a track from one of 4 albums that you put out this year. 2 of them were collab albums where it comes up with the artist name and your name. Why did you choose to do that as opposed to just be kind of behind the scenes as a producer?
Good question, because I think we chose that together, and the process with the artist doesn't was like we didn't talked about it, and from the start it was like, all right, now we have all those songs, and we all made them together,
Right.
basically. So not really beats from different producers, just like me and the artist,
Mhm.
and then it makes sense just to be more like also maybe more interconnected on Spotify.
Yeah.
um, to choose this way of doing a collab album,
Mhm.
because now those 2 albums that are different artists are linked through me. So like maybe
Yeah.
some people stumble upon my Spotify artist page and then see a different album that they didn't heard of a different artist,
Mhm.
but they like my sound, maybe something like that. Um, so it makes sense, I think, to just be very interconnected everywhere, right?
Yeah.
That was the idea, basically.
Yeah. And when you started those albums, when you were like doing the first sessions, did you already kind of think like, okay, we're going to work on a full project that's going to become an album?
No, not at all.
When did that start to come together?
We started just making music, just
Mhm.
because yeah, we didn't have any plans with both of the artists. I didn't have the plan to make an album. It was
Right.
like, all right, let's do some music. I like your style.
Mhm.
You are super talented. I have to work with you. And then we started working, and there were the first song, and then were the second song, and the third song, and the fourth song, the fifth song, and suddenly it's the Dropbox folder is getting bigger and bigger. And at some point, I think like at 10 songs, you say, all right, this is already an album.
Yeah.
Let's do some more, but I think we are going to release it as a whole thing. So
Yeah.
it wasn't clear from the start.
When you were starting those out, was that already at Riverside Studios where you're a resident?
Like the Nomé album, I started back in 2 years when I moved to Berlin.
Right.
Then I didn't have the studio yet. It's like the three first track I started at my home production setup.
Mhm.
But then we moved to Riverside Studios, which is a lovely studio in Schlesische Tor. Um, and there we started the whole thing properly, and also like re-recorded stuff. And
Right.
um, the second album with Rain also was the whole process in the Riverside Studio straight up.
Right. How much when you were re-recording stuff were you also rewriting and you were kind of like tempted to go back and change things?
Mm, I'm like personally, probably my process is not really focused too much on the things that are not perfect yet. I try to
Mhm.
get things done first, or like
Yeah.
just drop a lot of ideas, a lot of different songs,
Mhm.
and then see what is like from the demo, from this like unperfect like first idea, which prevails, which is the best idea,
Yeah.
and or like what feels good, basically.
Mhm.
And then going back to that one, well, maybe with a couple of weeks, uh, just not listening to whatever,
Yeah.
and then
Like,
like
get
making
some
the next
distance.
steps. And
Yeah.
so I don't like to like be next session the same song, next session again. We need to fix the hook there and whatever. Being so focused on one track always kills the vibe for me, at least.
Mhm.
And I need some, like I just need swapping out tunes. All right,
Yeah.
next one. This one's not perfect yet, but put it to the side. I bounce it either way. We're listening to it one more time. And then suddenly at the breakfast, when I'm eating breakfast at my home, I listen to the tracks somewhere on a Bluetooth speaker. And then I have the idea for the track, like,
Right.
shit, actually the drums on this part need to be cut out, whatever.
Yeah.
And those things doesn't happen in the studio because you don't listen to the music in a normal consumer-based way. I have the feeling you're always like too focused sometimes.
Yeah, on really specific things and lose perspective.
Mm-hmm.
How often are you like, when you're just listening to music, walking around or at home or whatever, how much are you listening to your own music, stuff that you're working on, or do you try to like not listen to it so it doesn't get too like too in your head all the time and then you're sick of it?
I think when I make a song, the days after that, I'm really hyped always.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to things too much actually. Like always, and showing it to my girlfriend and showing it to everyone. It's like, shit, look at what we made.
Yeah.
But then after 3 weeks, or even like when the song's getting more finished than before it was like the demo, now it's getting a proper production and stuff, then I can't really listen to it so much anymore. I don't know why,
Right.
because it's...
Maybe you've been like, you're focused on, like if you're mixing, for example, and then you're focused on all of the specific things, and then listening back, you're still focused on them. You can't unhear so many problems with it.
It hurts sometimes. It's
Yeah.
also like putting out projects. I have the feeling after that I can't listen to it too much. Like not like the first moment when I made the first demo with the artist. It's like, shit.
Yeah, because
you're
not listening to the idea anymore. You're listening to the production and everything that went into
it's
it.
a whole different thing.
Yeah. How are you usually writing songs in like a collaboration like that? Because for me, when I'm writing, I usually start with rhythm and you're a drummer, but a lot of your tracks have live drums on, which is really cool and pretty, not like completely unusual, but pretty unusual for hip hop. What's the writing process like? Are you still starting with rhythm and just like recording straight from live drums, or are you replacing MIDI drums later?
Good question. Very good question. And it's also depending so much on the artist that I work with, because every artist has a different mindset about production as well. So it's weird. Some people need more beats, like finished, already made beats that I made myself at some point, right, for the session. Or some artists come in, like RAYNE is this example that comes in the session, said, all right, I want to do something with ambient music today.
Right.
And then we listen to ambient music and try to find a sound that feels like that, and then going from this point. So I like to be open about the starting process, or like how to start a song, and also depended on the artist how he likes it best. So Nomé is also himself a great guitarist and pianist, makes music on that too, and like writes ideas down.
Yeah.
So he sometimes brings a piano riff, for example, in the session, just a piano riff. And we go from there. Or he has produced a little demo of a song with the guitar and him singing. And I get the stems from him, and then we figure out, all right, but how we make this a whole song.
Yeah.
But there is also a lot of sessions where we just start from nothing, right? All right, let's make a song. Let's make something. We have time today. And then most of the time, I guess I like to start with harmony and melody first, actually. And putting drums after that. I don't know why, because drums always give so much direction. So drums are so, they need something after that. They are demanding, basically.
Right.
If you have a certain type of groove, then it's hard for me to hear a lot of options on that,
Yeah.
And when you have a different type of like sample chop, whatever, then there is, for the drums, at least in my view, a lot of options where to get the pockets, where to get the accents, and be creative with that. But sometimes, I mean, I like to switch it around, starting with drums too.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get some variety. You have to try different approaches as well. From studying jazz and getting into production, was your first focus in production also on jazz, or was it straight to hip hop?
I started producing because I started to listen to hip hop more frequently, actually. So I was first just drummer, 100% drums, practicing. First years of studying, I was practicing everything that I need to practice for the courses stuff.
Yeah.
And at some point, the teachers tried to, or like, told me that I can also focus on the stuff that I like.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of sounds so simple, but when you always have this task, all right, you have to play this, you have to play this, then you have like just a list. You work the list down and make it happen.
Yeah.
But if you are focusing on the things you like, you have to find things that you like first, or like really understand what is your passion, what is your core.
Yeah.
And then I started the search of my, like, what is my passion, or what is like where I am burning the most.
Mm-hmm.
When I listen to it as well, and when I play it or make it.
Right.
Yeah, and then definitely I had the Linkin Park past in my childhood, and then already started there with 10 years listening to kind of hip hop influenced music.
Yeah.
And then coming to this jazz courses and all those jazz harmonies, combining those two influences, I have the feeling really led me on the path of hip hop and the bounce based music with also a lot of jazz background, like at least in some kind of genres.
Yeah.
So deciding for, or not deciding, but dig down the rabbit hole of jazz and hip hop records that are this kind of realm.
Do you remember if there was an artist or an album when you were doing that you kind of had a moment where you were like, oh, I think I figured out this is what I really like?
Yeah, I mean, Kendrick Lamar was one of the big the big ones, the Pimp a Butterfly, everything. Dawn as Damn as well. Shit. And going from there to all of kind of like I was digging, searching for records that I like. Finding Tyler the Creator, for example, big influence. Finding a lot of different producers as well, like checking out like Kenny Beats, for example. He had this in a pandemic, this phase where he started Twitch, and the first Twitch sessions were so real, you know. They weren't prepared at all.
Had no idea what he was doing.
He had no idea what was he doing, and that was the best thing, because he just told so many real facts, and from himself, you know, like how he get into music and what are his thoughts about that. And
also had like a good community around it.
Yes.
Which I've like tried to get into lots of online music communities, especially during COVID. It's like, what can you do? And most of them are pretty trash. But that, I feel like the one that's built around, I don't know if it's like Kenny Beats or if it's Dots or whatever, but they had the beat battles going on.
Yes,
and like
sir.
The Discord is like actually active with people helping each other, and
that was a nice time. And that also like changed my way of thinking about production. Basically, the whole the cave thing was shit. This can be dynamic. This can be like an improvisation. This can be like in the moment. Because what I think hate the most when you're producing and you are like sitting there, all right, now I have to make the drums, programming the drums. All right, I need some keys. All right, now I need to listen to 5 references to find the tone for the right guitar sound. And making that very like step-by-step structured and mathematically, basically. I hate that. I need to be like playing an instrument. Like, all right, let's go there. Let's try this, record whatever, flip that around. I don't know what I'm doing here. This sound shit, delete it.
I mean, that's got to be like a new thing though as well, right? Because I guess the approach of everything has to be really calculated. We need to know like the frequency response for this mic before we set up everything. Comes from the days of having to book a studio and be like, okay, well, we have like, it's going to be 3K to record today, so best make use of the time. And then now it's like, I mean, if you were recording at home a lot, I do as well. And it's like basically free to make this track versus the next track.
And also in the studio, I have the setup where everything is mic'd up. Like the drums are mic'd up. In the preamps already set. The piano is mic'd up. the synth is plugged into a DI box. Everything is ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And when I want to make music, I just decide, all right, this instrument now, boom, record it. Don't have to care about any settings.
Mm-hmm.
There's also like a big thing just to make the flow going. And the K, for example, I mean, it's edited for sure, but you get the feeling of shit, they are just bouncing back ideas, making something, don't care about too much what at all, and this encouraged me. And seeing also his workflow, how fast he is with Ableton,
Unbelievable.
being fast as a producer in your DAW is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And
especially
I started,
for that, like improvising on the spot type of production.
Yes, making on the spot, and also not always just on the spot. Also, when you make stuff with yourself, when you are just able to make ideas happen very fast. Like just, all right, I try this, doesn't work. I try this, doesn't work. The third time does work, but just having don't have already like struggles making the first idea happen.
Mm-hmm.
It helps a lot, and I also have I think I have a bunch of custom shortcuts for that. And
are you working in Ableton?
No, I'm a Cubase guy.
Okay.
I'm a underdog Cubase guy. But I never had the feeling that I needed to switch, because I know Ableton, and I use that for live setups, for example, when I need something like programming MIDI stuff, and it's perfect for that. I have the feeling. But the whole mixing interface and how that works, and the plugin thing in Ableton is not like, it doesn't feel so logical to me, actually. I like the mixing view of, there's like a mixing view in Cubase where you can see every channel with every plugin. You can swap chains around and stuff, and a little bit more like the traditional mixing boards, but in a digital way.
Yeah, Ableton, I think, for mixing is really good if you don't have studio experience. Like I didn't have any studio experience when I was starting to work in Ableton, and then now the way the plugins are set up, the weird thing with like the way groups work kind of as a bus is super intuitive to me, but then it sucks when you're trying to export and you have to send it to someone who's like using Pro Tools. And
yes.
So
So
it's kind of a mess.
Cubase feels like a compromise between the production-based Ableton and the more mixing-focused Pro Tools, I would say. So it's in the middle of that. And never had the point where missing feature. So I stick with it because I'm fast. Also, Ableton, I'm so slow.
Learning a new tool is horrible.
And all my custom shortcuts in Cubase work perfectly for me. And like, I need to do that. All right, done. So that helps a lot.
What's the drum setup you have like ready to go in the studio?
I have a nice Cube Drums custom built drum set from a little manufacturer in Germany, actually.
Nice.
It's a acrylic term. Drums, special sound, very warm and dry, I have the feeling, and a snare that has super thick shells, like this, like, what is that, 10 centimeter shell, which is insane. It's not normal for drums. To all the drummers, everyone else, like, what is he talking about? And then some jazzy cymbals, because the jazz influence like led me to the more quieter, drier cymbals, which is, I think, so much like also the sound of hip hop, at least in a live drum setting. Right now, I'm digging Chris Dave so hard. I'm like, I'm getting back to Chris Dave. He's a drummer that influences me a lot. And he has always those weird cymbals and the clap stack, which makes like a traditional clap sound, but it's a cymbal, like it's a real sound source.
So the ones with the rubber layers?
Yeah, like it's not rubber. It's like just like very bent metal, like, which is not quite fitting together and has some space to wiggle, and it sounds like a 808 clap.
Right.
And using this also in productions in hip hop, it's like a weird clap sound, very roomy because it's mic'd, like it's not like a dry digital clap. It's more like it's a real clap, but it's not hands, So having those kind of cymbals that has not the classic clear sound, more like the dirty, almost distorted sounds, And then having my drums chain also, I have like a preset drum chain for all the also mics, and then the group channel I have preset for this, just to have a sound already when I'm recording, and not to have to dig too much in the samples, because recording drums live is also a pain. Actually. Yeah.
But it's such a big difference.
It's a big difference, and like if you play a groove like a boom, boom, you have so much bleed. You have so much bleed. You know, like the kick drum is on the hi-hat, the snare drum is on the hi-hat, the snare drum is everywhere basically. You know, you don't have any control really about the kick drum punch or stuff. You know, like it's just an acoustic kick drum. It's not sounding like a boom from an electronic sample pack. You know. So in order to achieve that, you have to use a lot of samples. Not samples. A lot of plugins, gates, trigger plugins.
Doing that from audio processing instead of using triggers.
I like to do both basically. Sometimes I layer the acoustic kick with the trigger plugin, so like acoustic and like electronic. Sometimes just plugins, no external sample triggering happening, just also a lot of distortion, saturation, gating, transient shaping. But yeah, in order to set that up, you need a lot of time, just like figuring the right order of the plugins for this one. So I have this one preset chain where it already sounds like a hip hop kit to me, at least.
Nice.
And then I can dial some like R&B, more distortion, more high end, whatever. This works fine as well.
Do you feel like that's the biggest change in your workflow since moving to a full studio?
100%. Yes, of course. Because drum set, especially drum set, you don't have in your flat. You can't play it because the neighbors and Germany, and it's difficult. So also not the space sometimes. Like you have to have a corner where it's not a couch or something. You know, like you have to have space and neighbors that are fine with playing drums. And so that changed the studio a lot.
What were you doing before that for practice?
Practicing, I was mostly practicing in my university, for example. You know, like we had like rehearsal rooms, and this is, I think, the time where I most spent the time practicing drums. Before that, I also sometimes practiced at school. We had the drum set somewhere there in the basement. In Berlin, after I studied, or like after I moved here, sometimes I played drums in a rehearsing room that you can rent for some hours, whatever, right? But then the studio changed that everything.
Yeah. What was your experience like studying jazz for 8 years?
It's not exhausting. I'm glad it's done now. Because you have this back in your mind. You are not really finished. You have to do something still. Like some classes are not finished yet. Whatever. Because there is definitely a lot of things that you are not 100% interested in, but you have to do them either ways. But on the other side, you have so much time, especially in studying music, you have so much time on focusing on your craft. Studying instrumental jazz, as an example, there is not much courses like compared to normal studies when you study whatever economy, whatever, right? You have a timetable, whole week courses, different subjects and stuff, and we have maybe the half of the week is courses, the other half is just time for practicing and getting learning the things that you need to learn for the courses that you have. For example, ensemble, you have to play certain kind of tracks, songs with other students. You have to learn them first, and your teacher is giving you homework. All right, you have to transcribe this drum solo and rehearse that and learn that. And there's a lot of time for practicing and focus on your craft. And also you are surrounded by a lot of musicians and people that have the same interests and want to be a professional musician or artist or singer or whatever.
Yeah.
And the first contacts that I made in the like that I still work with, for example, Evan. She's also now based in Berlin, producer herself, singer herself. We started making music in the studies. She studied jazz singing, and we met there. And she also went this path of like more hip hop R&B influenced music.
Yeah.
And so we hung out together, make music, and we still make music today. So
Right.
this like finding people, it also helps for that.
Yeah. Did you struggle at all after graduating from like conservatoire style um, music education and then refocusing on something which is less polished, like hip hop's less polished than jazz instrumental work, or just transitioning to something where it's like, oh, I need to focus on just enjoying this as opposed to being really great at it?
I think there is, or maybe there is this preconception of jazz nowadays, that jazz is this super smooth kind of music that is played in coffees in the background, right?
Yeah.
But when you study jazz, there is a lot of super rough jazz out there, and like the beginnings of jazz were like super like musicians that are fucked up, taking drugs,
Yeah.
don't want to play at their Broadway gigs anymore because they are actually too talented for that or can play way faster than they need to. So they started in some basements playing crazy chords and improvising about that
Yeah.
in a manner that is not common or like not also publicly known or appreciated.
Yeah.
So it started really like a kind of underground or like a rebellious kind of music, at least like the bebop ages, whatever. And so learning that and also finding all those different artists that try to push music
Yeah.
in a super, also sometimes very not polished way at all. Thelonious Monk, for example, whatever. And learning about his music and how he composes music, it gives you so much background infos to get into your production process as well. So
Okay.
it actually, I have the feeling it encouraged me more to be more creative with music, I guess. Improvising itself, for example,
Yeah.
you know, what we talked about earlier with the being in the flow, just being in a kind of improvisational thing when you produce,
Yeah.
comes from jazz, right?
Yep.
They started that. And it's also a black culture. It's a black music. So, and hip hop like that too,
Yeah.
right? So it's both super interconnected, and
Yeah.
I have the feeling it encouraged the hip hop even more that I
Right.
learned about jazz.
Yeah, it makes sense as well with hip hop being a modern continuation of the kind of like uh not really simplification, but like jazz being more simplified into soul from a theory standpoint and from a like um singability standpoint. Like it's much more consumable soul compared to jazz. And then that moving on to hip hop where it's even more consumable and it's become the
Yeah.
most consumed genre.
Yes, but also depends on from artist to artist, right? There's
Yeah.
super jazzy, Saba, whatever, No Name, that have all the jazz background
Yeah.
in their music. And I mean, it's also like it's very appealing to the public right now,
Yeah.
still. But it's also niche, right? It's not the mainstream. It's not the mainstream Drake, but even Drake has some jazz sample records or like soul sample
Yeah.
records on him. So yeah, it's very present.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any direction that you're looking at now? You released 4 albums this year, which is an insane amount of work to release.
That was a lot.
Is there anything looking forward to this year where maybe it's a different genre like a different subgenre you're trying to get into, or you just like want to reduce the amount of music released to maybe the top 10% of whatever could be released?
Good question. I think no. I want to a different thing. I think I want to be even more myself, right? Because there's so many amazing producers, artists out there,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't do everything. You can't learn everything. You
Yeah.
can't be the perfect guy that just delivers the perfect tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But you can be the special one guy that has these traits, a very good drummer and producer, and combining those two skills and making this kind of sound and being very like focused on this kind of um setting
Yeah.
to get the most out of this setting, just to be this one special guy that can deliver this kind of style, right?
Yeah.
Just to get the phone calls for exactly that,
Mm-hmm.
not everything else, but exactly that. So trying to be even more selective what I'm doing, and trying to be also more aware of what I can do best, which
Right.
is sometimes hard to understand, right?
Yeah.
You can do so much when I'm producing you. At least you can do so many different styles when you are on a DAW, right? You
Yeah.
can learn, all right, how to make dubstep,
Yeah.
whatever, right? It's so accessible right now, and you could use your time for that basically.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's even more difficult to don't do that and reduce yourself to the core elements that you are good at.
Yeah.
And leaving the other stuff to the people that are amazing at that, right?
What's
So,
your experience been with trying to figure out what that is?
this is a super good question, super hard one, and still thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's a feeling when you go into yourself while making something and understanding, shit, this feels so good making
Yeah.
it, right? When you are 100% in the flow, nothing's distracting you. Nothing is like, ah, shit, am I doing that right now or not? Whatever. Like questioning those questions indicates for me at least that I'm maybe not 100% comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm 100% comfortable, I don't question anything. I'm like, whatever, that sounds good to me. I love it,
Yeah.
Like, and this is what music, I guess, should be about. And for example, Tyler, the creator, the music feels for me like that, like whatever that is, it sounds so good that I make it either way.
Yeah.
And the mixing is not as you would mix it normally, but like it sounds good to me. I'll do that, whatever, like being
Yeah.
very confident about your feelings about how it feels and how it moves you yourself, right?
Yeah.
And how convinced yourself you can be about the thing that you're making, right?
Yeah. It's really difficult as well to get to that point. Like, I feel like only recently I had kind of an experience where I was like, oh, I was brought in to do some like electronic drum programming for a track, and then did it, and I would like actually had a confidence moment of like, I know this is really good, even if it's not what, like, even if they don't like it in the end, it's what they wanted, and it's done really, really well, and I'm proud of it. But getting to that, like, I mean, I've been producing not so long, but like 4 years, and this stuff I've liked doing before that, and I think is good, but not in the same way of having that confidence of like, yeah, this is definitely what I can do very well.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, it's not to sound cocky or like to self conscious about something, right? To say something, I'm good at something, or like very good at something. It has two different sides of it. There are people that say that and it's like a little bit too much or not honest enough.
Yeah.
And there are people that are saying that maybe to yourself, like, yeah, I know I'm good at that because it makes me happy, whatever, and not in comparison to others. I think the comparison to other should not count in this regard. But yeah, this is a super, super interesting topic. And also, I have the feeling travels with me since a lot of years, the thought about that and what am I and what can I give to the music world, right? Or like, what is because right now there's so much music going on, right? There's so much music and everyone is doing music, which is great because music is great and everybody should do music.
Yeah.
But it's even more important to show yourself as an artist or being individual in that thing, because you can get the drill beats, the best drill beats from so many people
Yeah.
out there, right?
Yeah.
And I can try to make a drill beat, but it won't sound like as this drill guy that makes that for 10 years now in his basement and listen to the
Yeah.
outest drill shit from somewhere in the the underground scenes, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being aware of that you don't have to do everything, or like that you don't have to be able to do everything, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to master all the skills. You just need to master one.
Yeah.
The feeling.
It's also really difficult to put a price on it. Like trying to transition from doing music to professional musicianship is really difficult.
Oh shit. Good. Yes, good topic. Especially when there are so many more artists, there's even less, or like the pieces of the cake gets smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah.
And finding yourself there in a way that you can do that professionally and still be able to finance your bills, right?
Yeah.
Pay your bills and eat something.
Yeah.
For me right now, the playing live aspect, as a drummer, I still have a lot of gigs, right? I have
Yeah.
this jazz project, and I also get asked for the artists that I work with, for example, when they play live and they want to have a band, they ask me, because I know the songs already, to play the drums. And this is where the money is at right now, I have the feeling.
It's kind of switched from what it was 20, 30 years ago.
Probably.
In terms of distribution, CDs and vinyl sales.
This is definitely not really happening anymore. I mean, CDs after concerts still work. At least in my jazz project, we have like CDs and we take them to the concerts. And the people that are visiting the show, they want to get something from the show, just not for listening or like logical purposes, more like a emotional attachment to the evening, you know, like getting some gifts from there, you know, like something that reminds you of this evening. We even started to do socks, you know, like we have socks that looks like the album cover. And this works so well. And the people don't really care about like the CD or that you can listen to it at home. You just need something that maybe reminds you of the evening, or you want to support the artist as well, right? There are people that want to support the artist because they think this was a great thing that they make, and they want to give something, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have like a couple tapes that I don't have a tape player. And there was some stat like, I think it was 70% of vinyl buyers in the US don't have a record player.
Which is crazy. But yeah, this is how it works. I mean, it's more like
supporting the artist type of thing.
Support as an artist and like a little accessoire thing, you know, like having it somewhere in the kitchen, on the wall, whatever.
Yeah, and it's also like similar to having a hoodie or socks or whatever, where you're kind of like, it's a way to connect with people that are a similar, like have similar interests. Like, oh, I also have that.
But yeah, streaming CD sales in general is a difficult topic. I mean, everybody talks about that. There needs to be a change somewhere.
Yeah.
There needs to be a new system.
And Bandcamp's kind of collapsing, which is a real shame.
Yeah. I mean, we are in interesting times, right?
Yeah.
AI is rising. Everything's accessible, but nothing's getting paid.
I'm optimistic based on nothing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, but we don't know where it is heading, right? This is really, I'm really wondering how this whole thing develops.
Yeah.
Like my most optimistic guess would be, all right, AI is taking over all the boring jobs. Everybody is want to make something with their life and getting like into artistic stuff, probably, you know, like making music or painting or whatever. And no one needs to get paid for that anymore because like
there's some UBI type of system going.
But I don't know. Like we don't know. It's probably years and years to go for this scenario, and maybe it won't happen at all.
Yeah,
but that would be nice to not have to be paid for music, but still survive or like live a good life. That would be ideal for me. I hate to charge for my stuff. It's always I'm so bad at that.
Yeah, it's always rough. We are getting close to the end. Do you want to talk about, is it Leleka, the jazz project you were talking about?
Yes, Leleka.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about what that is? And
Sure. Yeah, we played a concert yesterday, and it's funny because it's not hip hop. It's not really. It's not even really jazzy. It's like kind of modern, very neoclassic influence. I have the feeling like super, more like easy piano chords, like soft melodies, soft drum playing. At least some tracks. And yeah, we are just working on that continuously since 8 years now. So, and in this time span, we just achieved to grow, which is also a thing that is, I think, underestimated still. And the just continuity of things, making things for a very long period and don't stop, which is hard, especially in bands when you have 4 people that are pulling in different directions sometimes.
Have different schedules as well.
Different schedules, different interests. To keep together people for a long period of time is a super difficult task. But I have the feeling always rewarding and always guarantees you some kind of development.
Yeah. Do you know what was the biggest thing that you guys were doing that helped that growth? Was it touring? So you toured Ukraine 2018?
We toured a lot, that's true. But also we have this one collaboration with this series, which is a Ukrainian series about the history of Ukraine. And we made the title track for that. They asked us to make the title track. And this title track just really encouraged so many people that are maybe not even super interested in music to check us out and check the music out and want to listen to this specific song. Like this song has now 1 million streams. Yesterday it started to that, and we didn't have any music promotion on that. So this is really like real 1 million streams, which is insane for this kind of style of music, right? It's not viral at all. It's not like a radio thing. It's just people that are interested in this one song because they listen to it so many times in this series. And this is helping a lot. This is pulling everything, like number-wise at least. Just the YouTube channel is growing because of that. We get subscribers every few days, you know, and like the sync thing, connecting to game and video making is so important today. It's also super hard because there's not much space, right? There's one title track. We are this one artist for the series. So like this selection is very limited where the things can be placed. But it's super worth it, and it helps the music to reach out to different people that you are normally not reaching out to, right? Yeah. This helped a lot. But also, I mean, touring, we have a booking agency. Booking agencies nowadays, I have the feeling, are even more valuable than everything else. This is like the thing.
Yeah,
like,
it's the connections to the venues, because from the venue perspective, for maybe people who don't know how booking agents work, is that venues won't just work with any old artist that comes up and is like, hey, can I book the venue? So they go with the booking agent that works with them because they're a reliable source of artists.
Yes, and it's a whole big network thing, and you can't do it yourself. You have to be so much invested in that you are traveling to some kind of fairs, meeting people, knowing people from different kind of venues and different kind of artists that you maybe also work with. Like there's a big interconnection happening, and this is a full-time job. And as a musician, booking yourself is so difficult, especially charging. You know, like charging the booker, like the venue, a certain amount of money is so difficult when you don't have any perspective, or maybe shows that he already paid for. You know, like the booking agent normally has different artists, so he knows the wages right now, or what is realistic, what is possible in this kind of venue, whatever, right? So this is, and I mean this is where the money is right now. And also future-wise, music is going to be made so easily with like all the technological developments, but playing live probably won't be replaced so far. So this is what maybe prevails after whatever AI revolution
It's
may
about to
come.
happen.
So this might be also the future, at least in my eyes
Mhm.
and ears. Yeah, and also it's fun. I mean, playing live is as well for the musician as well as for the audience
Yeah.
a nice thing. Still,
Yeah.
after all the years of playing live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, is there anything else you want to promote? Any gigs coming up? This will come out at the start of where is this coming out? January 5th.
I think I don't have any releases planned yet. There might be something in the making with some artists. Nana Be Cool, for example. Or Sovina. Shout out. Yeah, but no, listen to the albums. Listen to the albums that I made. Theme music, Nomé, and Neophyte RAYNE
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that I probably put the most work in.
Yeah.
And the other ones are the It Gets Weirder by Prismala and Ristvo by Leleka. This is the music that I put out this year. Listen to it, would be appreciated, and maybe you find something in there that resonates with you.
Yeah. All of that will be in the description. And if you follow us at Unsigned Berlin, we'll keep you updated on all of the upcoming gigs and all of that kind of stuff. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you can leave a review, that helps us a lot for algorithm purposes, but also just to get some feedback. And thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank you for inviting Unsigned Berlin.